So welcome to my class. In the last few classes we were talking about elasticity of demand, and we talked about what are the how is it measured, what is elasticity. And in this class we are going to talk about factors that affect elasticity of demand, or they determine elasticity. How do they influence? So it's the nature of commodity. If you can't do away with a good, then the demand for it is inelastic. It is highly inelastic. And if you can do away with a good for some time, or you really don't need it, then it's a highly elastic demand. Only when the prices come to very low will you really, the demand will change perceptibly. So that's what I just take. It's a very interesting topic. So as we see, we've seen that price elasticity measures degree of response of demand for a good to change in the price of that good. Now the question is, why is that the demand for one good is more elastic than the demand for another good? So there are many factors that influence the value of price elasticity of demand of a good. Some of these are explained below. So for example, we talked about the nature of a commodity. So what is the nature of the commodities? Say for example, more necessary the good for a consumer, less elastic is the demand for that good. The reason is that it is difficult to give up the consumption of a necessary good when its price goes high. For example, the demand for salt in a family is likely to be nearly perfectly inelastic. So the feeling of necessity is more a matter of habit too. A rich man is habituated to the use of a car. It is a necessity for him. Lower income group people also use car, but not that frequently as rich people do. For them, it may partly be a luxury. So when price of a car rises, demand for cars by rich people may fall at a much lower rate than the demand for cars by the lower income groups. Like talking about food items, say wheat is a bigger necessity than rice in northern parts of India. Rice is more of a necessity than wheat in the eastern parts of India. So it all depends. So the nature of a commodity. Now, for example, also like if we are talking about air conditioners, costly furnitures, fashionable garments, they are inelastic demand. But if you are talking about, say, bread and butter, pen and ink, etc., they are or jointly demanded good, they do have an elastic demand. So let's talk about substitutes. Demand for goods which have close substitutes is relatively more elastic. Why? Because you can easily change any substitute good. If the price of one substitute good becomes dearer or becomes costly, you can easily go in for the other substitute. So this is the option. When you have options, then you have an elastic demand. When there are no options, then it is an inelastic demand. Just remember. Now we have written as multiple uses. Goods which can be put to multiple uses have elastic demand. Now let's take electricity. It is generally used for lighting the house. That means using it for lights and fans, etc. Then it can be used for room heating, air conditioning, cooking, etc. If the price of but it can be used for that if it is moderately priced. But suppose if the price of the electricity increases, so we will restrict it to only the most important purpose, like say lighting the house, using it for the lights at home. So then postponement of a use. If demand will be so, if you can postpone a use of any commodity, which will mean that it is elastic for that good. That means the consumption for which can be postponed. For so then you have income level of the buyers. That also determines the elasticity for a good. For example, if the buyers of a good are high-end consumers, that means high level of income, they will not care for the price at all. So elasticity for them, demand for those products will be pretty much low. For example, demand for luxury cars by multi-millionaires. On the other hand, if income level of the buyer is low, elasticity of demand is expected to be high. For example, even say demand for ordinary cars or small cars by the middle class people here in India. Now, another determinant of demand, elasticity of demand, or what do you call it? Another factor affecting the elasticity of demand could be habit of the consumer. Goods to which consumers become habituated or addicted will have an inelastic demand. So then even if the prices go high, you will buy it. But maybe let's talk about a certain brand of tea or a certain brand of toothpaste that you're using. Suppose if the price of that goes high, you will still buy it because it becomes your favorite brand. You feel that's good for you. Then proportion of income spent on a commodity. Now goods on which consumer spends a small proportion of their income, for example say newspapers, toothpaste, etc., all such items will have an inelastic demand. On the other hand, goods on which the consumer spend a large proportion of their income, say for example say furniture or scooter, etc., they tend to have an elastic demand. Now also there's another point, say price level. Elasticity of demand also depends upon the level of price of the concerned commodity. Now elasticity of demand will be high at high level of price of commodity and low at a lower level of price. Also, let's take the time period. Demand is inelastic in the short period and elastic in the long periods. It is because long period is long enough for a consumer to change his consumption habits. So now briefly, goods with multiple uses carrying a high price tag and having a large number of close substitutes tend to show a high elasticity of demand than goods which are low priced or are essentials for life and those who do not have close substitutes. So these are some of the factors, and even while you're going marketing or in your day-to-day life, think what are the items which are elastic and which are inelastic for you.